Hey everybody, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Moment of Clarity breaking news. On this episode, I'm going to go through the shitstorm that has erupted over Medicare for all. If you've been watching Twitter, not if you've been watching a corporate media because they get paid to ignore things like this, but if you've been watching Twitter, it's just become kind of like a pandemonium, and I'm going to explain why. But please take a moment to share this video, to share it on your social platforms, please let people know to join us. But I don't know how many of you have been following this. I assume many of you have. My friend and yours, Jimmy Dore, has kicked off a shitstorm, but it's one of the good kind of shitstorms. It's the one that actually reveals a lot of people for what they really are, which is those are always fun, you know, when you see people freaking the fuck out and it reveals a lot about them. So Jimmy Dore, a few days ago, I was on with him a few days ago, but he, even before that, I think a day before that, had basically said that, and I know I went over this a little before, but I'm going to get into more detail and explain some of the arguments against it that and why they're horseshit. But a few days ago, I don't know how long ago now, but a few days ago, Jimmy Dore said on his program that basically the true progressives in Congress, there's, 10, we have two more coming, Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman. So you could argue there's like 8 or 10, okay? Let's say 10 just for sake of argument. The actual progressives in Congress, in the House. And Jimmy basically said that's almost enough. That's really close to enough. So that if all of them were to withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi as speaker, then she couldn't be elected speaker unless they demand that she put a vote on the floor for Medicare for all. Nancy Pelosi refuses to do that, right? Nancy Pelosi, 100-millionaire, fucking corrupt woman, been in Congress for goddamn ever, and doesn't do anything that doesn't, somehow profit her or her friends. So refuses to put Medicare for all as an even as a vote on the House floor. So Jimmy said this. He said, look, fucking demand it of them. Demand that the so-called true progressives, you know who many of them are, AOC, Ro Khanna, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, those folks. And actually, I'm going to show you all their photos in a second. But look, you don't have to say they're all assholes. Maybe Jimmy's calling them all assholes if they don't do it, but it doesn't matter. The point is, you don't have to say they're assholes. You just have to say, look, fucking demand the vote. Force the vote. Okay? So he said that. He said, look, if you're a true progressive, if you stand for what you say you stand for, one of them even wrote the bill. I can't remember if it was Rashida Tlaib or one of them, but wrote the fucking bill for Medicare for all. And the others have co-sponsored it. So it's like, just fucking demand it. Demand that there be a vote on the House floor in order for Nancy Pelosi to get a vote as speaker. Because Nancy Pelosi is nearly guaranteed to be the speaker again. That's kind of not up for that much debate. But like I said, there's this little vote margin that could make a real fucking difference. So Jimmy does this. I was on his show like the following day, and he asked me if I was down, and I was like, yeah, let's fucking do it. He also got a bunch of other people to sign on and support it. Justin Jackson, the NFL player, has been active in it. I think I got his name right. And anyway, so then you have a bunch of people running up and saying, how dare you, Jimmy Dore and others? Jimmy Dore et al.? How dare you demand anything of AOC or all the others? We do not demand of them. We, as progressives, just say how much we love them, and we never ask anything else more than that. We just run around and go, we love you. Thank you so much for being awesome. That's all you can do. That's what they said. And they said, fuck you, Jimmy Dore, for having the nerve to demand anything of them. Now, I also have a lot of friends who are like, fucking done with some of these progressives because, voting for the CARES Act, voting for all this garbage, voting for or saying that, John McCain was a wonderful human being, or acting like they don't know what's going on in Venezuela, when you're like, how much more clear does it need to be that we are endlessly trying to create a coup in Venezuela in order to crush their country? How much more clear does it need to be that our economic war against Venezuela is killing people every day? Like, how much more do you need to study the issue? That's what they like to say, because they often don't want to come down on one side of it. I'm looking into that. Oh, are you looking into it? Really? It's only been going on for a few decades now, this round of trying to destroy Venezuela. We've had past ones going on much longer than that, but this latest round only been going on for a few decades. I need to look into it. Let me check the pages and see what they fucking say here on whether we're trying to destroy a sovereign country rather than letting them do whatever the goddamn hell they want and, work to help their people. Anyway, so I totally get the argument of people who are just like, I'm done with them altogether. But that's not what this is about. This is about people who do largely support the so-called progressives in Congress, and yet are saying, look, do not vote for Nancy Pelosi unless she guarantees you a vote on Medicare for all. Done. Okay, so everyone, all these progressives who don't seem to understand what it means, have shat all over Jimmy Dore and coming at him. And anyway, it's not just about Jimmy Dore, though. It's created this whole internal debate. Like, is that what people should demand, or should they just sit back and say, no, we love you guys, do whatever the fuck you feel like because it's adorable, we love you. Okay, so I think it was announced just tonight. Movement for a People's Party, MPP. You've heard me talk about them before. Led by Nick Brana, who created MPP, have created a petition demanding that this happen, that these progressives force the vote for Medicare for all. And I'm going to get in again to the debates against it and for it, and why the debates against it are insane. But I wanted to show you the petition first. If you don't do it right now, I hope you'll do it once I finish up this episode. Just go to forcethevote.com, which is what I'm showing you right now. And now I can actually read you all their names, but you can also read them yourselves. Raul Gialva. I've never actually pronounced his name out loud before. Ro Khanna, Marie Newman, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Corey Bush, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, Pramila Jayapal. I think maybe, I don't remember which one of them wrote the bill, but anyway. So this is forcethevote.org, and you can go there right now and sign it, or you can wait until after the episode, or you can not sign it at all. That's your right. But anyway, look, I don't normally promote online petitions. They've just announced it, by the way. That's why it only has 673. I'm sure it'll be thousands very soon. But yeah, read it, see what you think, and if you like it, promote it. Let people know. Forcethevote.org. And you can Jayapal wrote the bill. Thank you, Joe. 777777777. Jayapal wrote the bill. So forcethevote.org. Please let other people know. They created the petition. I don't normally support online petitions because I think that the vast majority of them are not actually doing anything beneficial. They don't actually matter. They're usually used as a release valve so that people don't actually stand up for stuff. They don't actually fucking storm the streets. They don't actually get angry beyond filling out that little petition. And that's why I don't support them. Also, there's also really shitty ones where all they're doing is like change.org is usually just using various shit to collect emails. So a lot of them are shit. A lot of them are meaningless. A lot of them are just designed to promote, a big corporate organization. But this one I actually think is more useful than normal because there is a shitstorm right now. This has happened. This is a wave of online support for demanding a vote for Medicare for all and forcing Nancy Pelosi to do it. And because that wave and that shitstorm, kind of mixed metaphors, but there's waves in the shitstorm, right? There could be waves of shit in the shitstorm. So this wave is all happening. I think this petition can actually be useful. I think that once, if it can get to tens of thousands of votes or whatever on it, it can actually be used to point to and say, look, people support this. But this is not just about the petition. I want to get into the details here. And Brianna Joy Gray wrote a good article defending the case for this, the case for forcing the vote. And let's see, there it is. There, this is from Brianna Joy Gray, and it's at currentaffairs.org. You could also read this afterwards if you want more details about everything that's going down. But I'll give you a summary here. Basically, what she says and what I've been saying and what many have been saying is that some say this isn't the time, right? That's the argument. Oh, this isn't the time, right? We're not right now. We don't have all of the votes. If we force the vote right now, it'll fail. And then what do we do? That's the argument against it, okay? But just because you have a vote and it fails doesn't mean you can't hold another vote later. That's A. B, once you force a vote, some of the people who said they would vote against it all of a sudden have a lot more pressure against them to vote for it. So it becomes more complicated. They don't want to go on the record as voting against Medicare for all. So forcing the vote, you don't actually know whether it would get approved or not. Then people point to the Senate and they say, well, it'll just get knocked down in the Senate. Well, actually, after the Georgia election on January 5th, which if you're in Georgia, you should vote on. After that election, you could have a Democratic Senate. You might have a Republican Senate. But either way, it's only going to be a few votes difference. So now we're talking, if all the Democrats are voting for it, we're talking a few people have to be pushed to vote for Medicare for all. Now, I can't guarantee all the Democrats will vote for it. Democrats are a shit stain on society. So who knows how many might be like, yeah, no, I don't want people to have health care. But again, that's not the point. The point is to try and use what little tiny bit of power there is to try and force this to happen. So the people that say this isn't the time, it's like, could you imagine historically a better fucking time than now? America is fucking collapsing in the middle of a pandemic. You've got 300,000 dead. You've got 1 out of every 3 Americans says they had difficulty in the past week either paying their bills or buying food. Okay? 1 out of every 3 adults. That's like 70 million people. That's 1 out of every fucking 3. And how much of them does healthcare, health insurance factor into that difficulty, paying their bills? Probably almost all of them, or the vast majority. Over 14 million Americans have been kicked off their employer-based health insurance since the pandemic started. 14 million have lost their health insurance just during the pandemic. Healthcare and health crises are the #1 cause of bankruptcies in America before the pandemic. I mean, it is difficult to imagine historically a better time than now to have this vote. Even a Fox News exit poll, which you got to figure who's Fox News talking to. A Fox News exit poll found that 72% of Americans support a single-payer healthcare system. Half of Republicans on that poll supported Medicare for all, despite watching Fox News, which acts like Medicare for all means that Nazi, Russian, Cubans are going to castrate your dog. 88% of Democrats on that Fox News exit poll supported Medicare for all. So you've got 88% of the party, the Democratic Party, meaning I'm talking about across the nation, supporting this. So when it goes to a vote on the floor, how many Democrats do you think will feel some pressure to vote for it when 88% of Democrats say that they support it? There is absolutely no better time than now. You're not going to have a better time when there's going to be more votes for this. I mean, seriously. I mean, as Jimmy Dore has said, it's quite likely that Democrats will lose the House and maybe the Senate in 2 years from now in the midterm elections, because we know Biden is going to be a pathetic president. He's going to undo some of the shit Trump did, but that's not going to make him actually help people. He's already showing what he's going to be with his cabinet picks. And so it's almost undoubtedly that the Democrats will lose the House and possibly the Senate in this coming midterm election. Listen, I don't give a shit either way. Well, fine, even if they keep it, but still, it's fairly likely. Okay, so that means you've got like 2 years, maybe. You've got a majority in the House. You've got January 5th, you might have a majority in the Senate. And you've, even if you don't, you're only down by a couple votes in the Senate. When is a better time to vote for everyone in America to have healthcare like every other industrialized country in the fucking world? I mean, have you ever looked at I think I talked about this on an episode the other day, didn't I? I don't know. It's all starting to blur together. Have you ever looked at the countries that all have healthcare? It's like every country you've heard of. It's most countries supply healthcare to their citizens, just not the United States. We don't have the money. Fuck you, right? We don't have the money. And then people, by the way, people want to act like the argument against this strategy is that they don't like Jimmy Dore. That doesn't fucking matter. They're like, Dore did something 2 years ago. He said something mean that I didn't like. Who the fuck? What are you talking about? Who cares? That has nothing to do with the strategy. Go some other time and talk about how you hate Jimmy Dore, post it on all the comment boards. But right now, we're talking about the strategy of forcing a vote for Medicare for all. That it doesn't matter that Jimmy Dore was the one who first said it. It's amazing. Someone else was like, Jimmy Dore supported Tulsi Gabbard, and I don't like Tulsi Gabbard because she did this and that. It's like, I have my complaints against Tulsi Gabbard. Just because Jimmy supported Tulsi Gabbard does not have anything to do with forcing this vote. Fucking get your shit together. Figure out what you actually stand for. And it doesn't matter how you feel about Jimmy Dore. So yeah, there's no, historically, there's like no better time than now. The rate of the number of people, the percentage of people that support this in America is higher than it's ever been. And it's so rare. It's so, let's, and again, please allow your imagination to run free, and let's imagine that all of the 10 or whatever it was true progressives that I mentioned earlier are actually true progressives. There's a lot of arguments against many of them, but let's just say let's just suspend our disbelief and say those are true progressives. There is so little power that they have. They have a tiny little bit of power. They are 10 people in a house that has 538, or no, 538 and electoral votes. Anyway, that's whatever. Several, 400, is it 438? I don't know. Because 100 senators. Anyway, it's hundreds of people in the house. And they are 10 people. And then you've got to count, Jesus Christ. I'm getting too excited about this. Subtract the number of Republicans. So now you're down to a smaller number, but still hundreds of Democrats. And so they, so 435 in the House of Representatives. And they're 10 people, and they don't have that much power, very little power. But this is one moment where they actually could force a vote on Medicare for all. So you've got the fact that this is one chance that they could actually do it. You've got the fact that that historically there's no better time. America supports it. We're in the middle of a pandemic. 300,000 people have died. People need health care. And on top of that, many Democrats in the House have supported the idea of paying for COVID treatment. They're already paying for COVID testing, aren't they? And doesn't America pay for COVID testing? So aren't you right there on the cusp of saying healthcare should be covered? If you're saying that COVID treatment should be covered, what the fuck's the difference between COVID treatment and you have cancer? Or the fucking difference between COVID treatment and you have Ebola? Shouldn't all medical care, like if you're going to say COVID treatment should be covered, then they should all be covered. I mean, there really is no better time for this. On top of all that, you have the fact that 3/4 of Americans believe Nancy Pelosi should step down, believe that she has failed, that she is awful, that she's been in that position for too long, that she is a fucking incredibly wealthy, out of touch human being who should go live on a farm somewhere and just be done. Just be done. But no, she's got to steal more money for her rich friends, which is what she's really about. So, I mean, that's like all of the reasons. The other thing people try and say is like, well, if you have this is what one thing AOC tweeted, well, if we have a vote and it fails, what happens then? It's like, you have another vote a week later, or you keep trying to force another vote. You don't give up. You don't walk away. Other people have said, well, this strategy is less powerful than trying to get this person on this committee or do A, B, and C. And it's like, you can do both. You can walk and chew gum, I hope. You can try and force this vote, and you can also get your committee members that you wanted that you think is a better strategy. The idea that you should just sit around forever waiting for some magical vote to just fall out of the sky is just fucking crazy, and it's diluted. And as you guys know, I very rarely talk about like the nitty gritty of the House or the electoral politics on that level. And it's because I think that 99% of it doesn't matter. My favorite study to reference is the large Princeton study that showed that America is an oligarchy. And the reason it came to that conclusion is because if something doesn't align, even if Americans believe in something, even if, like Medicare for all, let's say 80% of America believes this should happen, or legalizing cannabis, or whatever. Even if 80% of America believes it should happen, it still doesn't happen unless it aligns with corporate interests. So Medicare for all does not align with corporate interests. That's why it is near impossible to get. Obamacare did align with corporate interests. It was useful to corporate America to have some level of health care, and it was useful to the insurance companies because millions of people were forced to sign up for those insurance companies. So Obamacare was good for corporate America. Medicare for all is good for human beings, bad for corporate America. Because it's bad for the insurance companies that make billions. People make billions of dollars off of our healthcare. So that's why I don't normally get into this shit, talk about the nitty gritty of votes in the House and shit. But I think that right now there seems to be an energy. If you go on Twitter, this is 80% of what anyone who gives a shit about politics is talking about. This and I guess the Georgia race. So it's like the arguments against this are nonsensical. It's no, we need to wait and we need to try and pressure this committee member. Or honestly, the biggest arguments I've seen against it are either I didn't like that one time Jimmy said that thing, or that AOC is, I have AOC's poster on my wall, and so anything she does is the right thing. And so right now she's not saying she's going to do this. So that means that whoever said do it is an asshole and awful. And I'm currently getting AOC carved into my ass. It's like these politicians are not, I think Jimmy said this as well. Politicians are not your buddies. They're not supposed to be your friends. You don't know these people. I mean, if AOC is legitimately your good friend, then fine, you've got a different dog in this race. But I think most people, that's not the case. Even if you've met her, even if you shook her hand, these are people you don't know, and you should try and pressure them to do the things that Americans want. End of story. It doesn't matter whether you, but she's so sweet. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, just listen to what's goddamn ethical, and giving Americans healthcare is what's fucking ethical. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. Maybe we'll have some time for a few questions, but I'm going to show you this. For those of you who are joining late, the site to sign the petition is forcethevote.org. Forcethevote.org. You can go there. You can sign it. It'll take you about 15 seconds. And I unlike a lot of petitions, I think this one can have an influence. I think this one can matter. So yeah, those of us working with Movement for a People's Party, Jimmy, Cornel West, Nick Branna, Marianne Williamson, Medea Benjamin, Code Pink, felt that this was a good idea. And I think this petition is one of the good ones, especially since it'll take you 30 seconds. So who gives a shit? Like, even if you're like, I don't think petitions do much. What, 15 seconds of your life? What do you have to lose? So honestly, I haven't heard any. I haven't heard any good reasons against it. I've just heard bullshit against it, and I recommend you read that Brianna Joy Gray article if you want more details. Yes, I think infighting among those who want change is like a great strategy. It works beautifully to just anybody who wants change. You just you criticize them. You say if it were me that were at the front of this, you just say, oh, he's at RT, he doesn't matter. He's an asshole, whatever they come up, fucking red baiting, neo McCarthyism, all that shit. And I think that a lot of the Democratic Party, that meaning like the establishment, is nervous that a YouTube personality could create a wave like this when people jump on board. So I think that it's making them pretty nervous, even if they aren't nervous about this particular vote on Medicare for all. I think the fact that we, meaning the average people out there, can still stand up and create a fervor like this. And by the way, the social media platforms have done everything they can to try and stop this type of thing, to try and stop a social fervor for real change. And they've succeeded mostly. I mean, as I told you many times, I can't get more than a few hundred views when I used to get 50,000, 100,000. And even Jimmy's Twitter is far smaller. Each post he like tweets out will get far fewer retweets. And those are just two examples of thousands. But it's designed to stop this kind of thing, because they want to stop like an Occupy Wall Street from happening again, or a Bernie Sanders movement from happening again. So this type of thing is harder and harder to get. It's harder and harder to see, where you have a grassroots energy behind doing something that they're not able to tamp down that easily. And of course, the mainstream media, at least so far, I think, is basically not mentioning this, not covering it, because they're afraid that if they cover it, what does that do? I mean, if you have 80% of America supporting Medicare for all, and mainstream media covers that there's a petition, a movement to force the vote, all that does is bring energy to it. And they know that, so they're not going to cover it. Even if they had a little debate on their panel on MSNBC, where, two of the people are like, this is the worst idea ever. We need to never demand anything. Even if they did that, it would still draw more energy for forcing the vote, because people are going to be like, I kind of like Medicare. Medicare for all. I kind of don't like paying thousands of dollars a month for healthcare. By the way, all of you over at Facebook, please head on over to youtube.com/, moment of clarity, because over there it's much less suppressed. And I'd love for you to click subscribe over there. Let's see. A lot of hatred for Nancy Pelosi. I agree with you, Casey. Thanks, Nick, for being here and getting involved in some sort of debate with people. I don't actually know what who Deanne's referring to, but she reminded me of another point people like to make, which is they like to say Americans deserve choice. Americans deserve choice, and that's why they should. Well, first of all, you'd still have your choice. All right. You could, if you wanted to pay shit tons for healthcare, you still could find ways to do that. But the more important thing is every time they say that Americans deserve choice, most Americans don't have choice. Many Americans are on their job's healthcare system, which sometimes has choices, but then they lose their job or they're transferred to another one and they lose that healthcare. So people are booted off the healthcare they chose involuntarily all the time just by losing their job. If we had Medicare for all, you could lose your job. You still wouldn't have to worry about breaking your leg and not being covered. The idea, this choice thing is horseshit. It's a bullshit argument created by Republican think tanks that it's sad that people buy into it. Like, I like choice. I like when I go to the store and there's like lots of toothbrushes and there's so many colors to choose from. So I like choice. They're going to take the choice away. No, you're falling for bullshit, because most people are 14 million people have lost their health care during this pandemic because they lost their job. 14 million. Like, can you imagine how many people that fucking is? All right, let's see here. Any more questions, thoughts? So Cenk Uygur with the Young Turks is against this, but Cenk Uygur on a lot of things is like a Republican light. He's it depends on the issue. On some issues he's good, and then on other issues it's kind of like he's like a blue dog Democrat on other issues. So I wouldn't really put a lot of weight in something he says. The main reason I think Cenk is against this is because he and Jimmy did not end their tenure on good terms, because Jimmy was really calling out the way some of the shit TYT was saying. I don't even remember what most of it revolved around. Endorsing Hillary was probably the big thing. They endorsed Hillary. And Jimmy was like, fuck that. And I think that was one of their biggest blow-ups. But so he's not with TYT anymore. And so I think Cenk just hates everything Jimmy does. So how do we get... Oh, thanks, Scooby Snacks. How do you get me to the front lines of the news media? I got news for you, Scooby. There's a reason I'm not on the front lines of the news media, and it's because they would never have me. They will only have people that fall in line with the corporate system, and even those who seem a little more edgy. And you're like, wow, they just said that AOC had a good point. They're not really that edgy. They're a little edgy, but basically you can't come out against the corporate state. You can't be against capitalism. You can't be against the corporations that run our entire system and come out against them every day. I'm not saying MSNBC has never had a report about how Walmart did something shitty, but they're not going to hammer away at how Walmart's shitty. They're not going to hammer away on how Amazon's shitty. They're not going to call these fucking people sociopaths, okay? They're not going to do that. They might say Jeff Bezos should, probably doesn't need that much money. They might say something like that. They're not going to say he's a fucking sociopath who should be in a jail cell on an island where he can't harm others. Like, That's not the type of rhetoric that they allow on their airwaves, because you have to give in to their corporate system, because that's who fund them, right? Who's funding these channels? It's big pharma, it's big weapons. You have to support their wars of choice. You have to support, I mean, look at MSNBC. They got in line for every bomb we've ever dropped. They support bombing Syria, bombing Iran, bombing Iraq and Afghanistan. They support war with North Korea, and they're the liberal side of the media. So sorry to go off on a rant there, but that's why I'm not on the front lines of your corporate media. They wouldn't even answer my phone calls if I were calling them. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Good call, Sarah. She is reminding us that Cenk worked very hard to stop a union that was forming at the Young Turks. So that tells you a little something. Chelsea says, I think it's called Moment of Clarity. Maybe she's talking about my show. Yes, the online show is called Moment of Clarity. The TV show is called Redacted Tonight. Nick says MSNBC had Donahue and Ed Schultz, but those were the exceptions. Nick is correct. And guess what happened to Phil Donahue when he came out against the Iraq War? Despite being the #1 show at MSNBC at the time, Phil Donahue was shown the door. Ed Schultz he joined MSNBC after the Iraq War. So then it was okay to be against the Iraq War because it was, years before. But, when Ed Schultz was shown the door, despite being one of their top shows as well, was when he supported Bernie Sanders. And he went up to Massachusetts at the first run. Ed Schultz has passed away, unfortunately. But this was Bernie's first run, 2016. And this was 2015. He went up to Vermont. He went up to Vermont to cover Bernie announcing his run. And he was there, and he had camera people and probably a producer and all these people. And they're ready to film Bernie's opening speech. He's running for president. And he gets a call 5 minutes before. He told me this story himself. He gets a call 5 minutes before, and the head of NBC or MSNBC says, we're pulling the plug. We're not covering this. Because they knew what Bernie Sanders was about. They knew what he was going to say. And that's not MSNBC. MSNBC is Hillary Clinton. That's what they are. And so... yeah, Ed Schultz. But another big one of who MSNBC forced out, which very few people know, is Jesse Ventura. In 2001, I believe, right before the Iraq War, he inked a deal to be one of the faces of MSNBC. It was going to be like him and Phil Donahue. MSNBC pushes it, as they're pushing out Phil Donahue, they realize that Jesse Ventura is anti-Iraq war. And Jesse also told me this story himself. They call him up and they say, can we change your opinion on that? On the Iraq war? Can you support the war? And he's like, you fucking kidding me? No, I don't support any wars. I'm against the war. So he tells them that, and they paid him roughly in the amount, he wouldn't say the exact amount, roughly in the amount of $10 million just to get out of his contract, just to make him go away. I mean, that's how much it means to MSNBC to not have someone standing for peace on their airwaves. That's how much it means. $10 million, write him a check, just go away. Just don't be against. We can't have anyone against the war on our networks. Amazing. Let's see. I would love for everybody, by the way, to check out my newer podcast called Government Secrets with Graham Elwood. Government Secrets. Every week we go over those dirty, hidden secrets of the American government. We cover the assassinations. We cover CIA coups. We cover how we do the mountains of evidence showing we didn't need to drop the atomic bombs. And you can go back and listen to past episodes. Pretty evergreen, as you might imagine. But we also cover topical stuff about our government that is secretive or covered up or propaganda. And that's called Government Secrets. It's free on all your podcast platforms. Okay, I'm going to wrap up here in a minute. Please do subscribe. I might answer one more if I can find a good one. Please subscribe at youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. Alice Foster says Moment of Clarity is just music. I don't know what that means. Oh, I don't know what that means. YouTube.com/moment of clarity is my channel. Let's see. Oh, by the way, I was going to do a live stream this weekend. I might do one tomorrow night. I'm not going to be the one me and Eleanor Goldfield were going to do on Sunday. We can't manage to work the schedules out, so no live stream Sunday, but probably one tomorrow night. Whenever you want to check to see if there's a new one out, which is almost every single day, except sometimes. It's just go to leecamp.com. You can check it out there. Not seeing any questions. It seems that the YouTube comments have frozen or something because I'm only getting Facebook comments now. Well, okay, so I'll end on this one. Francisco asked, what are my thoughts on the end of the American Empire and the rise of China? That's too big a topic to cover as a final couple minutes here. But I think that it would be a far more healthy world if it's not just one country dominating everywhere. 1,000 military bases around the world, trillions of dollars dumped into military. You need kind of more equality around the world. And on top of that, I also have done segments on how stupid nation states are. So nations in general are largely ridiculous. I'm not saying you can't have pride in where you're from, but that should probably be more about pride about your people and not your this border or that border or this government or that government. It should be more pride in your culture and things like that. If you want to do that, if you want to say, oh, me and my dad always, we come from a fishing culture and we like to fish. And then you can be proud about you and your fishing and how you're good at catching fish or whatever the fuck. Like, be proud about those kind of things. You don't have to, generally most nation state fucking fervor is used to hate and kill and harm and create xenophobia and fear and keep people in line. And it's, I've done whole segments on it before, so I don't need to go through it all now. But I think it's time we rethink the nation state model because think about it. If humans were working together, and I think I did one video on this recently. If humans were working together as class structure, as like the lower class demanding rights, we could unite in a way around the world that is like, yeah, we're not like people should have their fucking like human rights. People should have food. Like we live in a post-scarcity world. People should have food and housing and things like that. And if we stood up rather than hating on another country, I mean, if the workers in just Mexico were demanding, along with the workers of the United States, were demanding things, you'd have far more power than just splitting up into all these little splinter groups, which is obviously very useful to the ruling elite to be able to in order to maintain their dominance. And so that's why they want us all fighting each other. They want progressives fighting amongst themselves. They want activists fighting amongst themselves. They want Black Lives Matter fighting amongst themselves. They want atheists fighting amongst themselves and anarchists and Antifa. It's like if they can just keep them all fighting amongst themselves, then you don't have anything to worry about, rather than uniting. And nation states are a great way to keep people saying, "Oh no, that's the dark other. That's creepy, awful other." I hate all Russians. Really? You hate all Russians? Do you know any? No, I just hate them all. They're all the same. Really? Like the babies? Like what about the toddlers? Are the toddlers evil? Yeah, evil toddlers. Like it just doesn't. Why? Because they were born inside these certain lines instead of those certain lines. It doesn't make actual common sense. But people don't like to, people like to act like it does make sense. Okay, thank you, Melissa, for the donation. Very kind of you. Tony's asking if I'm publicly funded production companies. Oh, am I for publicly funded production companies? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Never really spent that much time thinking about it. But you can also end up. It doesn't mean they're all going to be good. Like you can end up with things like NPR, where it's a percentage of NPR comes from government funding, public funding, right? But NPR is also largely funded by oil companies. If you go to their sponsors page, they're proudly oil companies, Koch brothers, just all banks, tons of banks fund NPR. And so they can look public, NPR, National Public Radio. They can look public while being funded by those awful shit, and then do things like stand against Occupy, stand against any type of people movement, basically just do State Department talking points on any propaganda they need, anti-Russia, anti-China, anti-North Korea. State Department just has a little ticker tape feed that just comes out, and they just read it on the air. We have reports that that Chinese people are under your bed right now, and they don't even question it. It's just done. I mean, so is that public? I think that doesn't mean they're all good. Thank you. I appreciate it, Ed. Yes, Government Secrets Podcast. Check it out. Also, I've been taking recommendations. Where is all right. I've been taking recommendations for topics for Moment of Clarity rants. I've already done a few that were recommended by people. By the way, the last one I did on the tiny homes for the homeless being crushed and demolished in Las Vegas. I think I forgot to mention that was recommended by Joey Lankowitz. I think I have his last name right, who works with Food Not Bombs in Las Vegas. But yeah, I've already used recommendations that people have sent in. You can send in your recommendation for a topic for a rant at leecampmail@gmail.com. MAIL, leecampmail@gmail.com. All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys so much. Please do check out the podcast. Please check out my Rockfin account. I have a new premium series over there because you pay $10 for the premium, and it's for everybody on there. It's for Jimmy Dore. It's for Graham Elwood. So it's not, you're not just paying me, which actually is fine. It works out well for content creators and everyone else. But so I have a new premium series at Rockfin, rockfin.com/LeeCamp, that is called Broken News, in which I pull up like CNN articles and just show you the propaganda within them, pull up CNN videos, pull up MSNBC, Fox News, and just break down the propaganda they're using. So thank you, Nick, as always. Appreciate it. I will let her know. Yes, I covered ivermectin on a video 2 videos ago. Feel free to look it up. It's all at leecamp.com. And yeah, that is it. Thanks so much, Eric. I really appreciate the kind words. And keep fighting, everybody.